Hello everyone, welcome back to another recall session. So today we're going to discuss with you about the recall questions of physiology subject of NEET PG 2019. So let us start discussing the questions. The first question is according to myogenic hypothesis of renal autoregulation, the afferent arterioles contract in response to stretch induced by the renal autoregulation of the efferent arterioles. Contraction happens in response to the stretch, but that stretch will induced by opening of calcium channels. Because the stretch of vascular wall allows increased movement of calcium ions from the extracellular fluid into cells, causing them to contract. This prevents excessive increase of renal blood flow and GFR by increasing vascular resistance. Okay, let us repeat this once again. Stretch of vascular wall allows increased movements of calcium ions from the extracellular fluid into the cells, and that causes them to contract, and this prevents excessive increase of renal blood flow and GFR by increasing the vascular resistance. So the answer here is opening of calcium channels. The next question is according to Harrington classification, the decerebrate rigidity is characterized by all except. So let us look at the options. Rigidity occurs in all muscles of the body. This one is completely wrong statement. Decerebrate rigidity actually happens in extensor muscles of the body of all four extremities. The next option is increase in the rate of discharge of the efferent neuron. This is true statement. Increased excitability of the motor neuron pool. This one is also true. The last option is decerebration produces no phenomenon akin to spinal shock. This one is also true because decerebration is not like spinal shock. So the answer here is rigidity occurs in all muscles of the body. Option number A. The next question is which of the following is true for decorticate rigidity? Let us look at the options. It is produced by removal of the cerebral cortex and basal ganglia. This one is a completely false statement because decorticate rigidity is characterized by just removal of cerebral cortex that is also known as decortication. Okay. The next option is flexion of lower limbs and extension of upper limb occurs. In decorticate rigidity, actually, flexion happens in upper limb and extension happens in lower limb. So this one is also completely false statement. Rigidity is pronounced. This one is also false. No prominence of rigidity is seen. Last option is it is characterized by flexion of upper limbs and extension of lower limbs. This one is completely true statement. So the true thing about decorticate rigidity is option number D. It is characterized by flexion of upper limbs and extension of lower limbs. The next question is acid citrate dextrose is used to store blood, preserves the RBC for a period of 21 days. The storage period when adding phosphate alone and when adding adenine and phosphate together to acid citrate dextrose would respectively be. So, the compound given in the question is acid citrate dextrose. You have to add a phosphate and the compound given acid citrate dextrose. You have to add adenine plus phosphate. Then you have to calculate the both storage period when you add to acid citrate dextrose. So when you add phosphate, there is no change in storage period that is remains as 21 days as before. But when you add adenine plus phosphate together in acid citrate dextrose, that storage period would be 35 days. Okay. So the answer here is 21 days and 35 days. Option number B. The next question is functional residual capacity is functional residual capacity is equal to expiratory reserve volume plus residual volume. So this is the answer. The option number C is the answer. The next question is which of the following is not a dietary fiber Let us look at the options. Cellulose, yes, it is a dietary fiber. Inulin, yes. Pectin, yes. Gums, no. It is not considered as dietary fiber because consumption of gums through diet is very minimal or rare. So that is the best choice among all options. Let us look at the other examples of dietary fiber also. Dietary fibers are lignin and hemicellulose. Other than cellulose, pectin, and inulin, etc., gum is also a dietary fiber, but in diet we use minimal or very rarely gums as a diet. So this is the answer. So the option number D, gums, is the answer. The next question is a lesion in the medial lemniscus at the level of pons causes which of the following? So they asked pons lesion at medial lemniscus. So when there is a lesion at medial lemniscus happens at the level of pons, it leads to loss of tactile and proprioception on the opposite side. Fibers of medial lemniscus ascends ipsilaterally in the dorsal column of spinal cord to the medulla where they synapse in the gracilis and cuneate nuclei. So the answer here is loss of tactile and proprioception on the opposite side. Option number D. The next question is which neurotransmitter is responsible for anterograde dilatation of the small intestine? So this one is small intestine. This one is bolus. So let us go into the detail of this. This one is bolus, small intestine. This one is anterograde direction, and this one is retrograde direction. Here dilatation happens because of vasoactive intestinal peptide and nitric oxide in retrograde direction. The neurotransmitters are working is acetylcholine and substance P. So for anterograde dilatation of the small intestine, the neurotransmitter responsible is vasoactive intestinal peptide. Option number A is the answer. Let us look at the other options. Acetylcholine, no, it is not responsible. It is responsible for the retrograde direction. Substance P is also responsible for retrograde direction. And serotonin is not responsible for bolus movements. Okay. The next question is reflex responsible for tachycardia during right atrial distension is straightforward factual question. The reflex responsible for tachycardia in right atrial distension is actually Bainbridge reflex. The answer is option number D. The next question is testosterone production is mainly contributed by factual question. It is contributed by Leydig cells. The answer is option number A. The next question is what is the function of tubuloglomerular feedback? The function of tubuloglomerular feedback is regulation of GFR. The answer is A, regulate GFR. Based on the agglutination test shown below, what is the blood group? In A group, agglutination is absent. In B group, agglutination is absent. In RH group, agglutination is present. So the group is O positive. The next question is which of the following neurons predominantly fire during forceful expiration? So there is actually two group of neurons that controls respiration. Dorsal group and ventral group. Dorsal group controls normal inspiration and expiration. Ventral group controls forceful expiration. And the third center is known as pneumotaxic center. which limits the duration of inspirations. So the answer here is option number B, ventral group of neurons, which predominantly fire during forceful expiration. The next question is ADH acts through which aquaporin channel? Factual question. ADH acts through aquaporin 2 channel. The option is B. 2 is the answer. The next question is which of the following has the least conduction velocity? So let us look at the options. So postganglionic sympathetic fiber has a conduction velocity of 0.7 to 2.3 meter per second. Somatic motor fibers Somatic motor fibers have conduction velocity of 70 to 120 meter per second. Preganglionic autonomic fibers have conduction velocity of 3 to 15 meter per second. And touch and pressure fibers have conduction velocity of 30 to 70 meter per second. So the fibers has the least conduction velocity is postganglionic sympathetic fibers, option number A. The next question is which part of the liver stores vitamin A? So factual question. The liver stores vitamin A in ito cells, is retinyl ester. Most common compound is retinal. Palmitate. The answer is A. Ito cells. The next question is liver synthesizes all of the following except albumin. Yes, it synthesizes albumin. Coagulation factors. Yes, it synthesizes coagulation factors. Acute phase proteins. Yes. Immunoglobulins. They are not synthesized by liver. They are synthesized by plasma cells. So the answer here is option number D, immunoglobulins. The next question is which of the following ions is involved in peripheral oxygen sensing chemoreceptors? So peripheral oxygen sensing chemoreceptors contains type 1 glomus cells which has oxygen sensitive potassium channels, which conductance decrease in proportion to hypoxia. So the answer is A, potassium. The next question is Brown-Séquard syndrome is characterized by. This is also a factual question. Brown-Séquard syndrome has contralateral loss of pain in temperature due to loss of the Spinothalamic. Correct. So pain and temperature loss on the opposite side. Option number C is the answer. Okay. So with this, we complete our recall session. So thank you so much for watching and see you in the next one.